of vlogs in here. Rag should be in the door as well. Pop the hood right in the door here. The latch is about center. The easiest thing to mention is right when you open it, just tap that guy. I've mentioned that the hood light is functioning. I'm going to move from right to left doing fluids here. So you can say that the windshield wiper fluid is sitting securely and filled to an adequate level. You can say that the brake fluid is sitting securely and filled to an adequate level. You always know it's brake fluid if it says .3 on it. This is the steering fluid here. The vehicle's hot, so we're going to wipe and then re-dip. Steering fluid is filled to an adequate level. Moving on here, this is the oil. The oil we are going to mention, we're going to dip it first. The oil we're going to mention both that it is filled to an adequate level and that it is clean. Transmission fluid's there, but you don't need that for a Class 4 test. The coolant is filled to an adequate level, but is not sitting securely. Why is that loose? Well, by the time you do your test, that'll be fixed. That's all the fluids. Next we're going to mention here the battery. We're going to say that the battery is sitting securely. The leads are connected and there's no sign of corrosion on the terminals. And now we're going to come to one of our favorite phrases in the Preacher, which is ABCs. So you need to mention to your instructor that from now on, I will be referring to any abrasions, bulges, or cuts as ABCs. So now we're basically just going to do our best to touch everything that's a hose under this hood. So I'm checking the battery leads, I'm checking the various hoses and connectors in the engine bay, and I don't see any ABCs on anything. Last thing we're going to do in the hood here is we're going to reach in. Down there, this is the drive belt. You're going to say the drive belt is taut and has no signs of fraying. If you look into the hood, you can mention that you don't see any leaks. Any leaks or liquid. Now we're down under the hood. The keys. Our next step is we're going to do a full outer inspection of the vehicle. So you can start by stepping backwards. Look underneath the vehicle. You can see the vehicle is sitting level and there's no signs of leaking or pooling under the front of the vehicle. Now we're going to start here and move this way. You're literally just going to touch everything you can. Sitting securely is always your friend. So the license plate, sitting securely, legible. The front bumper, sitting securely, no signs of damage. Front grille, sitting securely, no signs of damage. Blinkers and headlights, no signs of visible damage. They're not perfect, but they're clean. Mention they're clean. Same thing over here, no signs of damage, they're clean. The hood is closed, no signs of damage. Antenna, sitting securely. Windshield wipers, attached to the vehicle, they're sitting securely. The front windshield, no signs of visible damage, and it is clean. Right here, this orange thing, this is one of the few things in the test that can get you an instant fail. I tend to mention it right away so I don't forget about it. Just say, I have my certificate of approval and it is up to date. Moving along this way, we're just going to keep touching stuff. The front panel here, sitting securely, no signs of damage. Window, that's not a window, there's a mirror. Sitting securely, it's clean, there's no signs of damage to it. Side window here, clean, no signs of damage. The door panel, no signs of damage to the door. It opens safely from the outside. Now we're going to move on to the tire. We'll provide you with a hammer on the test for this step. There's a number of things we have to mention with the tire here. That is literally just hitting it. So the tire pressure is at an adequate level. The tread depth, you can can see my fingers in there. The tread depth is at an adequate level. Tire bead is adequate. And the lug nuts are tight. Now, in this van, the lug nuts have plastic covers, so there's no way for me to manually check them. If they call you on that and ask you how you know the lug nuts are tight, you can mention that there is no leaking from the nuts and there's no visible rust streaks. And you have your certificate of approval, so that's good enough for them. The tire, and mention that the tire valve cap is present. Next, you're gonna have to stick your head under the vehicle. So get under there. Under here, you're gonna mention you're gonna look on the inner tire wall and mention that there are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. This is the brake pad. You're gonna mention that the brake pad is sitting securely, no visible signs of damage. This is the brake line. That's not attached, your brakes don't work. So mention that the brake line is attached and there's no visible ABCs on the brake line. And you can mention that the suspension there's no visible signs of damage on the suspension. There's nothing leaking underneath and it's sitting securely as well. We also do need to mention, I didn't say it before, but on the front of the tire, there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts on the sidewall either. Keep moving this way. Side panel. No visible signs of damage. It's secure. All the windows here, clean, secure, no signs of damage. Fuel door opens. Gas cap locked, secure. On this tire, you're going to mention everything I just mentioned on the first tire. But it's slightly different underneath. So the back tire here, we're gonna go underneath. So we're still gonna talk about the brake pads, the inner tire wall, the brake lines. These pieces of metal here on the back of the vehicle form the rear suspension. It's called leaf suspension. So you're gonna mention that the leaf suspension, there's no signs of damage to the leaf suspension, it's sitting securely. And then these things here holding the leaf suspension down are called U-bolts. So you're going to mention that there's no signs of damage to the U-bolts and they're also sitting securely. So leaf suspension and U-bolts are things to remember on the back tires. If we move around to the back, then you mention there lights, secure, undamaged, clean. Back bumper, sitting securely, there's no visible signs of damage to the back bumper, it's clean. The back door opens safely on the outside. Their windows again, mention that they're clean, they're undamaged. Mention that your license plate is secured, legible, and up to date. Continue around this way. Your exhaust pipes here, just give it a little kick. You can say that your exhaust pipe's secure, mention there's nothing leaking from it. As we continue this way, the side paneling again is secure, undamaged, always with the windows. We're touching everything, mentioning that they're clean, there's no visible signs of damage to them. One thing you're going to want to mention when you're going to have to go under for each tire. One thing you're going to want to mention when you're under this side of the car, because they're easier to see. This big, long, sort of rusty looking thing in the middle is the drive shaft. So mention that the drive shaft sitting securely, there's no signs of damage to it. And this is the exhaust system here, so you can mention that the muffler is sitting securely, there's no signs of damage to it either. I just do those on the side of the vehicle so you can actually see them. Again, windows undamaged, clean. Here, you can't get away with saying there's no visible signs of damage because there are visible signs of damage on these two doors. So when you get to these two doors, you can say there is visible damage on these two doors, but then the magic words are, it has been reported to my supervisor and the vehicle has been cleared to drive. That's what you say. We continue on. Doors open safely from the outside. Back here, door opens safely from the outside. No visible signs of damage to this door. Windows clean, no visible signs of damage. Mirror clean, no visible signs of damage. Sitting securely. The last thing they might call you on is here on this tire, and I believe that one a little bit. If you try to tell them there's no ABCs in the sidewall, they may call you on it because it is quite roughed up. So what you can mention for this tire specifically is there is some visible curb rash, yeah, but again, it's been reported to your supervisor, the vehicles, so confirmed, good to drive. So that's going to complete our exterior examination, and then we're going to move on to the inside of the vehicle. So now we're sitting in the vehicle in the driver's seat. Your instructor will get into the passenger seat. You're going to put your keys in the ignition. Don't start the vehicle, but just turn the battery on. When you do so, you can mention that your gauges light up, your dashboard lights up. Just leave it at that for now. From here, we're going to mention that our windshield wipers are functioning and the spray function is working. We're going to mention that our mirror is clean, sitting securely. Mention that the inside of the windshield is clean. We're going to open our door, test that it opens safely from the inside. You're going to ask your instructor to open his or hers. That's fine. We're going to test the power window function. Power windows are functioning fine. What's important here is we need to test the defrost function. So we're going to mention that our defrost is working fine, and then we're going to test that the passenger climate control is functioning as well. Next, we're going to mention safety equipment in the vehicle. So you're going to mention that you have an ice scraper, a first aid kit, a fire extinguisher that is secured to the floor. Make sure that's secured. Your insurance is kept in this drawer. This is another one of those things that you can instantly fail on if you don't mention your insurance. So mention you have your insurance and it's up to date. And while we're here, we're going to mention that the horn is functioning properly. Next, we're going to move backwards through the vehicle here. So as you're going this way, you're going to start by telling your instructor that you are testing the seat belts. Testing that the seatbelts function properly. More than likely, they will ask you, are you going to test all of the seatbelts? The correct answer to that question is yes. Yes, I am going to test all the seatbelts. At that point, unless you've got an absolute stickler for an examiner, they're going to tell you that's the correct answer, and it's okay, you don't have to right now. So theoretically, we're going to test all the seatbelts. We're going to make sure that the side door opens safely from the inside of the vehicle. As you're going down, I want you to just hit these chairs on the way. Mention that all of the seats are secured. There's no signs of rips or tears or anything unsafe in the seats. Here, pass me that. The last of our safety equipment is at the back of the vehicle here. So you're going to mention that you have... So in the back of the vehicle here, you're going to mention to the instructor that you have your emergency water supply and that you have your emergency road flagging devices. And as we've been doing with everything else, you're going to mention that this door opens safely from the inside as well as the outside. All right, so that concludes sort of interior and safety device checks. The next thing we're going to do is check our lights. So your lights turn on the side dash here. That's how you turn your headlights on. And when we do that, we're also going to put on the left blinker. First thing you want to mention when you open the door here is you're going to mention that the interior lights are functioning. They'll activate when you open the door, so mention that the interior lights are functioning, and then we're going to go outside. You're going to see your headlights are functioning properly. You're going to mention that your front left blinker is functioning properly. So I'm going to walk around back here. You're going to mention to your instructor that your back left blinker is functioning properly. You're also going to mention that your clearance lamp, your clearance light is functioning properly. And you're going to put your hand on your here, and you're going to mention that your license plate light is functioning properly. Back around the vehicle. You're going to put your right blinker on now, and then you're going to activate the high beams on pulling the stick towards you. Just get a little blue symbol on the dash there. So I'm going to come back out front again here. High beams functioning properly. The front right blinker is functioning properly. Around back. See, the back right blinker is functioning properly. So now you're going to ask your instructor, you're going to say, I'm going to test the brake lights and the reverse lights. Can you please help me do that? They're going to stay behind the vehicle when you ask them to do so. You're going to go in. Press on the brake pedal. The instructor will give you a thumbs up when that works. Without turning the vehicle on, just put it into reverse, holding the brake down, and your instructor will give you a thumbs up when the reverse light's on. Then put it back in place. Now you're going to invite your instructor to get back into the cab. All right. So the last thing that we're going to do to complete this test is we're going to do a brake test and a tug test. I don't know if you caught it at the end of the last section there, but when you're done with the reverse lights check, make sure that your vehicle is always in park, because you're going to lose marks if you do not always have your vehicle in park when you're not in control of it. So what we're going to do next is you're going to put your seatbelt on. If at this point you haven't mentioned that your seatbelt is functioning properly, do so now. You're also going to ask your instructor to put your seatbelt on. They're tricky. They won't do it unless you ask them to. So ask your instructor to put your seatbelt on. Mention that the passenger side seatbelt is functioning properly. Now, when we do this, now that both of you have your seatbelts on, you will fail if you turn a car on when no one has their seatbelts on. Now that you have both your seatbelts on, you're going to ignite the engine here. So what a tug test is I'm going to put this car into drive without releasing the parking brake. Apply just the smallest bit of gas. And what that proves to us is that the emergency brake is functioning as it properly should. Put your foot back on the brake. The parking brake release is here. And now we're going to do a proper brake test. So we're going to let go of the gas, roll forward a little bit, stop. The brakes are functioning properly. Put it into park. Parking brake, you put it with your foot here. Put the emergency brake back on and turn the vehicle off. Now your instructor is going to have a small sheet that you need to fill out. It's like a mock pre-trip form. And then at the end of the test, I would suggest the next step here is you roll out and do your road test. But at the end of the pre-trip, if you have any time left over, I suggest saying to your instructor, just give me a minute and I'm going to think if there's anything I forgot. Because if you've forgotten anything, it doesn't matter if you do it out of order. You can do it now. The one specific thing I can think of that I forgot of even in this video is during your light section, you're going to want to mention that your four-way flashers are working. So make sure at the end of the test that you save that little bit of time for yourself. Don't feel like the moment you're done the tug test you have to just end it. But that's going to conclude your pre-trip. hopefully you've passed, and then you're gonna move on from here into the driving portion.